morning class, and today is a very quiet morning. Time check is 3:30. No, 3:40 in the morning. It's a really good time to record classes like this. There's no dogs barking around, no people passing by or working around me. Everybody is asleep, so I enjoy the solitude of the early morning. So I hope you, for the past few days, I hope you've been keeping track of the lessons that we have. Even though I think most of them would be too technical and you probably might have been bored by it, but those things will be more appreciated if you are actually working as a professional in the future later on. So you would realize, this is what Sir Sason was talking about. Okay, but it's preparation is a key to success. So one reason why people don't succeed in life is because they were not able to prepare for the opportunities that were given them. So preparation plus opportunity equals success. So the best thing to do right now is to prepare yourself, arm yourself with the necessary communication skills so that when the time comes, you'll be able to come out prepared. Okay, so before we proceed, okay, so I'll stop this. So we have a better picture of how your professor looks like. I woke up like this. Okay, let's have another screen here. Hmm, wait. Okay, so the last lesson we had, we talked about uh, communication in education or in the field of education, and like as a principal or as an administrator, perhaps. Okay, so today we'll be talking about effective communication. Let me see. Let me share this to you. Okay, from our module SIM, we have this. We are now on page 193. Okay, so effective communication, better science. So how does communication play in improving our sciences? Okay, science communication is part of a scientist's everyday life. Scientists must give talks, like write papers and proposals. They communicate with a variety of audiences and they also educate others. Okay, so by Monica Filiumo here. It's a difficult pronunciation. I think he's French. She is French. Okay, so science communication is part of scientists' everyday life. Scientists must give talks, write papers, proposals, communicate with a variety of audiences, and even educate others. So, thus, to be successful, regardless of field or career path, scientists must learn how to communicate. Moreover, scientists must learn how to communicate effectively. In other words, to be a successful scientist, you must be an effective communicator as well. So, before I go on, I should note that for the purposes of this post, I'm defining science communication broadly, meaning any activity that involves one person transmitting science related information to another, from the peer reviewed articles to tweets. So, there are different forms of communication. So, effective communication means transmitting your messages clearly and concisely so that it is understood. So it's about engaging your audience. Uh, it's about the so what or why does it matter of your message. Okay, so first of all, about advertisements. Okay, when scientists communicate more effectively, science thrives. Science is increasingly interdisciplinary, and the ability to communicate more effectively across disciplines fosters collaboration and innovation. So, being able to communicate the relevance and impact of their ideas and discoveries can enhance scientists' ability to secure funding or find a job. So, it allows them to write better and more comprehensive research papers. It also allows them to be better teachers and mentors for the next generation scientists. So, you have to convince people as a scientist that you're working on something that's really relevant or really useful so that you can get the necessary funding for from the government or from organizations or individual entities that is convinced about that believes in the work that they're about to do. I remember there's a show in the US about people inventing certain products. Then they present it to a panel of businessmen or capitalists who, if they are convinced, will buy the patent from them and will probably have it mass produced. So, in turn, it will be distributed to everybody at a certain price. So, it's a business opportunity for those businessmen. At the same time, it's an opportunity for those scientists to have their work discovered. Okay, so when scientists can communicate effectively beyond their peers to broader non-scientist audiences, it builds support for science, promotes understanding of its wider relevance to society, and encourages more informed decision making at all levels. So, from the government to the communities to individuals. So, it can also make science accessible to audiences that traditionally have been excluded from the process of science. So, it can help make science more diverse and exclusive. So, although having more scientists who are effective communicators benefits science and society greatly, there are still relatively few training opportunities for science students and even professionals to develop these skills. So, fortunately, effective communication skills are no longer perceived as soft skills. It used to be called the soft skills. Increasingly, they're becoming a part of the core professional skills every science student and professional should have. So many science communication training programs and courses for scientists use the public communication of science as a tool to develop effective communication skills. See, for example, this list of training opportunities compiled by Compass, which is an organization dedicated to improving science communication. So here are several other sources. So this is an example of an article talks about the social media's impact on workplace communication by Mark Kramer. It was March 24, 2017. Okay, so if you can check on this link, you can see uh, the lists of those, what do you call this, uh, tools to develop effective communication. So you should be responsible for developing those skills as a professional. You don't need to find out that it's needed in the future for you to be convinced to learn these things ahead. So arm yourself with the necessary skills so that when the time comes, you become a very important asset to your companies, to your community, and to your country as a whole. So The internet age has led to enormous changes in the way we communicate in virtually every aspect of our lives. So, social media, for example, lets us connect to others in a way that was previously unheard of. With smartphone in hand, you can now access anyone and anything around the world at any time. So, but do these technological innovations mean we are experiencing improved communication? So, Wael Ghonim, aka the Google guy who used Facebook to help launch the revolution against the Egyptian government in 2011, said that if you want to liberate a society, all you need is the internet. Okay, years later, he explained that while the Arab Spring revealed social media's greatest potential, it also exposed its greatest shortcomings or limitations. So the same tool that united us to topple dictators eventually tore us apart. So that's why we have to be careful about how social media is becoming a big influence, especially in our country. So in his TED Talk, Gonim discussed five critical challenges facing today's social media in the political arena. He explained that the most critical of these is that our social media experiences are designed in a way that favors broadcasting over engagements, posts over discussions, and shallow comments over deep conversations. So those were the shortcomings of social media. Sometimes just one post could be misinterpreted, like what Angelica Panganiban was into. Actually, she just tweeted a very short post. It's like one sentence. It's like it's her response to finding to the typhoon victims. Like she was, it's an unsolicited uh, opinion about where the president is. I think they found out that the president is in Davao, and he quoted, she quoted like, ano, tulog-tulog lang, kilos-kilos naman dyan, parang ganun. So, after that, it caught the attention of fellow artists like Arnel Ignacio, who was so furious about the idea that what do you know about politics? And what does it mean when the president is in Davao? He's probably, he needs to be in a safe place during all the storms. He doesn't need to be in the middle of the storm to be operating, right? So he needs to be in a place where he can operate well. And it's the art of delegation. Like, you don't need to do everything yourself as a president. If you are a good president, you should not be doing these things by yourself. You should be delegating it to the people you trust, the people who are more capable than you are. So what happened is it caught a lot of attention. That few lines that she tweeted got a lot of attention, and in the end, it was more damaging to her than beneficial. And her comment did not really help. It even infuriated fellow artists, which is actually have their points for scolding her. Okay, so she was scolded that instead of giving those comments, being critical comments, why not do things yourself? What do you have to do to help the government or to help the victims yourself? Why not go there yourself in the middle of the storm and help these people and document it using social media? So these are some of those stuff. Okay, so it's important for social media we have to be careful about it, because even if you have good intentions for doing that, it leaves you no space to have deeper conversations and proving your point, unless you talk in a TV TV show and do an interview. So stuff like that. So it's as if we agreed to talk at each other instead of talking with each other. So Gonim said. So while emailing, texting, posting, blogging, and tweeting enable us to send out messages, and they don't necessarily enable the opportunity for give and take conversations. So today, social media doesn't encourage meaningful dialogue where we engage enough to bring about greater understanding. So it's still, for the most part, one way communication or sender to receiver. So even though people can really comment on your post, but it's very limited. So that's not that this is necessarily bad in and of it itself, but it is limited and may undermine our ability to connect and understand one one another truly. So in the same way, I can't really understand when people post in social media or in Facebook, for example, about their rants against a relative or against a friend. So why do you have to post that? Why not message the person directly and say everything that you need to say without other people knowing about it, right? So I have this something against a computer company who I sent a computer store whom I sent my laptop so to have my SS hard drive changed, or I want to add another drive in my laptop SSD so that it becomes faster. What happens is they took out my old uh, drive and did not return it to me. So, and when they returned it, it was not the same one. I don't know if they replaced it or they totally deleted all my files. So you know that how that feels. But in spite of that, I did not. I'm tempted. I'm tempted to post these things to Facebook, especially on a computer page. We have 100,000 members, the Vawenyo members. So what happens if I post that issue, and what impact would that have on their business? So I just can't imagine, right? So I was tempted to post it because they did not do anything about it. But instead of doing that, what I did is I went to the police station and I had it blotted. So I have the blotter of this, and I'm intend to go to the barangay to really call their attention. And by then we can have a talk because they are shying away from when I confronted them at first. They did not. They kept themselves silent and did not even apologize to me and settle the damage done. So I think the best thing to do is go to the right people and do the right thing. So blotter, then call their attention through the barangay, and we settle it from there. So that's, or if not, file case instead of just talking about it on social media. Probably but I will keep their identity a secret. The, but my purpose is to warn people about what happened to me and what they could do. Like they should put a password on their file, or they should give specific instructions to the technicians to avoid miscommunication or to avoid mistakes. Okay, so workplace communication in today's social media experiences can't help but spill over from our personal and political lives into the workplace. So, and this is where I am concerned. So, says the author. Okay, without the exchange of meaningful dialogue, we are unable to maximize our ability to solve problems and innovate with new products and services collaboratively. Sending messages only in one direction isn't effective communication. So, this degradation in communicating can show up every aspect of our lives, including the workplace. So, examples here include a failure to actively listen, to actively listening when the other person is speaking. What else? Being too concerned with what we want to say rather than fully hearing and understanding what the other person says and what is left unspoken. So, not ensuring our overall physical behavior that includes tone of voice, the facial expressions, the eye contact are congruent with and supportive of our message. So that remember the importance of nonverbal communication in assisting the verbal communication. So not making our intention clear so there is no misunderstanding in what we say. Okay, so or using the wrong medium to communicate our message. So using email instead of face to face, or using the phone when video conferencing would be better. Using text messaging instead of a phone call. Like how do you turn down a suitor? Would you just say or would you just reply in a text, or how do you break up with your boyfriend or girlfriend with just a text message? It's really inappropriate. So a face-to-face meetup in the right setting uh, would be a very good idea for closures in relationships. So you'd be respected. You can save at least the friendship between you, even though you broke up. Okay, so what else? Demonstrating that we are listening, yet not ensuring the other person is feeling heard. Okay, so we have to make sure that when you listen, you make the person feel that you heard them. Okay, some research suggests that spoken words convey only, can you imagine, just 7% of communication. So the other 93% is conveyed by tone, the inflection, the other elements of voice, as well as by body language, like movements, eye contact, etc. So when communicating is conducted by any other method than face to face, a serious drop off in understanding and learning will result. Like you try it with your dogs. How do you communicate with your dogs? Dogs read by nonverbal cues, like the tone of your voice, the inflection, the gestures that go with it. When you ask the dog to come, I can ask my dog to come by just simply the use of my eye and by my head. Like, come here. I don't need to say the word come. Okay, so people work the same way. There are even cases when dogs don't really understand the words that you speak, but they understand the body movements that go along with it. Try shouting at the dog and say, "I love you very much." You think the dog will appreciate that? No. So he might even presume that you're angry with him. So they appreciate or they read the words more. Okay, so work group effectiveness. Researchers from Google's Project Aristotle concluded that understanding and influencing group norms were the keys to improving Google Teams. They determined that the right norms could raise a group's collective intelligence, whereas the wrong norms could hobble the team even if all the individual members were exceptionally bright. So how do you put together a group of intelligent people without them fighting or without them uh, constantly in friction against each other? So it takes a lot of communication. So the two behaviors all good teams generally shared were: number one, members spoke in roughly the same proportion. Okay, so a phenomenon the researchers referred to as equality in distribution of conversational turn taking. So the conversation should not be just dominated by one person. Okay, number two, and members had high average social sensitivity, or they were skilled at intuiting how others felt based on their tone of voice, facial expressions, and other nonverbal cues. So, can you tell if the other person is in supportive of your ideas, or can you tell if the other person was offended by your points or by your comments? So, this means that the group norms of taking turns speaking and listening with empathy were the most important factors for improving team outcomes. So, these are also fundamental to successful communication. While social media continues to influence every aspect of our lives, it's important to remember the limitations of it concerning effective communication. So, in the workplace, this means choosing the right medium to convey the message, ensuring that there is appropriate feedback loop, and responding to the feedback in a way that results in true understanding. So, with that, I encourage that your thoughts on social media's impact on your workplace. So, what choosing the right medium to convey the message. Okay, so you decide text message, post it, direct message, or then allow them to have feedback on your comment. Okay, so you cannot just post something. I think that's the difference between Twitter or Instagram and Facebook, because in Instagram you cannot really comment on the picture. You can just simply like or dislike or put heart or something. So with whereas with Facebook you can comment on everything. Okay, so I think we'll just leave the discussion. Oh no, we're almost done. So let's just finish this one. Okay, so to perform the aforesaid big picture, uh, unit learning outcomes. Okay, for the third weeks. Okay, so we have to understand the following essential knowledge that will be laid down in the succeeding pages. So thus you're expected to utilize other materials as well. Okay, so the term that is defined here is the workplace communication. So what is workplace communication? Workplace communication is vital to an organization's ability to be productive and operate smoothly. So workplace communication improves worker productivity. So research has shown that effective lateral and workgroup communication leads to an improvement in an overall company performance. So it has also been discovered that employees who were graded as highest in production had received the most effective communication from their superiors. So you can see that the effect of good communication and performance between employees and employers. So, for example, Gertrude works. Gertrude works in engineering, and her prototypes of toys receive accolades or praises. She is an effective communicator about her designs and how they will be played in real life by kids. So, in addition, she receives specific guidance from her superiors, allowing her to create designs quickly and efficiently. So, there's the support system. Okay, so number three, workplace communication can increase employee job satisfaction. Okay, so employees feel empowered if they are able to have upward communication. So this type of communication is when information flows upward in an organization and usually consists of feedback. If bosses or managers are able to listen to employees and respond, this leads to an increase in employee job satisfaction. I remember when way back in, I think it was 2007, when I've been biking since 2003, and one day I was assigned in UM Yanga. So I biked my way from Yanga in Tukbok to UM Bulton, because I brought my students there so that they can experience how it is to be in a speech lab. Then when I tried to come in at the embassy, the guard stopped me and said bicycles were not allowed to be put inside the gym. So what do I do? And the guard said, "Well, it's up to you, sir. You can just put the bike there on the along the street." So that's what I did. So I locked the bike on the oh, on the pipe, water pipe, something outside the university. And after 2 hours, my bike was gone. So I cannot blame the guards because they were just following instructions. So what I did is I told Ma'am Guyang, which is the uh, senior vice president for operations already. That's a really ranking official. Still, she said that I cannot do something about it because it was an ordinance given by the president himself. So what I did is I wrote the president a letter about what happened to me. So I was simply asking that bicycles should be allowed to be put inside for security purposes because we are employees and we need to have our things secured in the workplace. And you know what? That letter I submitted it on a Friday. The next day, it was included in the agenda for the board meeting of the directors. And the next day, that was Saturday, on by Monday, I was told that my suggestion was heard, my situation was discussed, it was heard, and they gave a decision to allow bicycles to be put. So it did not just address my concern personally, but it also addressed the concerns of other security guards, janitors, gardeners, and others working, biking their way to work. So they were jubilant about it, and soon I found out that I was not the only one who prey victim to these thieves. So there were like 5 other employees who suffered the same dilemma that I was in, and they were happy about it because today they can finally enjoy the security of the premises. So that's one of the benefits for communication. It promotes job satisfaction, especially if it's an upward communication. So can you communicate to your boss, to your supervisor, to your president mismo? That's a very good company to work with if that's the case. Okay, so in addition, employees are also happy if there is an intense downward communication, from the administration or from the leaders going down, which is information flowing down from superiors or managers to direct reports. Okay, Gertrude recently sent an email to her boss recommending that her department upgrade its design software. So her upward communication feedback was not just acknowledged but also acted upon, like in my case, so resulting in a very happy design team. So workplace communication can also have positive effect on absenteeism and turnover rates. So sometimes you cannot just scold employees that they were always absent. Like as a teacher, I also have that kind of tendency to take note, to scold a student for being absent, but it's important to communicate, like why. So I remember I had a student who was gone for like 2 weeks, and I already dropped him in my class record because there was no communication from him. And one day he showed up, rose from the dead. And the reason why is he had a chicken pox. See? So I have to reinstate him, and I have to give him opportunities to cope up with the missed lessons and the activities. So I scolded him for one reason. Why did you not tell your teacher that you have this situation? So sir, I did not have any way to contact you. I don't know your Facebook, and stuff, but it's a lame excuse. He could have asked one of his classmates or informed me through the classmates that he had this time. So he apologized. The same with managers or supervisors. You have to ask first why, so that you can understand and you can at least help them if they are sick. Okay, so communication flow is very important to workers. So employees have to feel secure that they are receiving truthful and updated information from superiors. So they also want to have the ability to share ideas, thoughts, and concerns within the company. So studies have shown that even after a layoff, companies that have excellent communication can retain the surviving employees. Okay, so regardless of the type of organization, communication is present is the element that maintains and sustains relationships in it. So what the person A says to person B not only can have impact on those two people, but since organizations are systems, it can also have a meaningful impact on the total system. His or her communication with his or her co-workers and supervisors in the organization would be a major determinant of how satisfied he is with his work and how satisfied others are with his work. So, for example, in one organization where he or she has worked, there was a very gossipy, control oriented person who would subtly let others know what she thought of his or other co-workers. In short, libakera. Eventually, this type of communication made it impossible for others to work with this individual. When asked to work with this person, others would find excuses not to or would become ill when the time to do the work rolled around. So this of course had a negative impact on the work of the total unit. So the communication behavior of individual employee plays a more significant role in organizational life than some think. So organizational communication is central to organizational success. I remember when I was administrative officer of College of Business Education, I had 12 STAs under me, and some of them had a grudge against the others, so the work was really affected because they try to avoid each other, and work, especially in communication areas, were affected. So what I did is I gathered them around. I assigned their senior STA. Okay, I told her to gather every STA and settle the issues among themselves by face-to-face contact and confrontation. I was there. I was just moderating who would talk so that they won't talk in unison. And you know what? Tears came out from their eyes. They were able to speak from their heart. And after that, there were apologies given. There were clarifications of previous actions. And things were settled. After that, the relationship of the group became stronger and the work was became smoother. So that's an example of this situation. Okay, so the nature of communication, last paragraph. The nature of communication in organization systems. So companies may communicate as channeled through television, radio, the internet, the World Wide Web, film, billboards, telephones, etc. In organizations, people often become the most important channels. So for example, supervisors function as channels between upper levels of management and the lower level employees. Secretaries often serve as channels between people on different levels and or different parts of the organization. So people serving as channels make up the informal communication network in organizations, or the receiver. So just as the source is the person who originates a message, the receiver is the person who acquires the source message. As the source, the receiver can be an individual, a group, or an entire organization. So also, like the source, the receiver has three functions: receives the source's message, decodes or translates the messages into ideas or information, or the message into some meaning. Number three, responds to the message. Take note of number three. So again, it is typical for one person to handle all three functions, but not uncommon for more than one person to be involved. So for example, a new employee might receive the manager's message, but have an older, more experienced employee interprets it for him, and has another employee respond to the interpretation. So for communication to become effective, employees and managers need to consider the backgrounds and experiences of each other, or to one another. So this may require that they should put themselves in the other person's shoes, or we call it empathy. The manager needs to know the employees to have effective communication with him or her. Likewise, uh, on the part of the employee. Okay, so for example, we have in our setting we have the dean who wants to communicate to the faculty members, and what she has is the administrative officer of that office to relay the message to the faculty members. Okay, so it makes the operations of the group or the organization smoother because of these things. So I hope you be learning a lot from this, and I want you to answer this activity on page 199 and 120. Okay, and post your answers as an assignment under this thread after viewing this. Okay, so thank you for listening. It's quite long, but uh, it's gonna be worth it. So I hope you really put this into uh, practical use in the future. So God bless and have a pleasant morning. Okay.